This episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. Tomorrow marks 50 years since Travis Walton reappeared in the Arizona wilderness after vanishing for 5 days. 6 men watched him get struck by a beam of light from a hovering disc. They fled in terror. He vanished. When he finally came back, everything had changed. I'm Carol Ann. Welcome to the InBetween. Your eyes flutter open to a darkness not all that different from when they were closed. As your mind is trying to move from the unconscious to the conscious, new sensory information is flooding in. You feel the rough texture and cold temperature of pavement under your cheek. You pull what little energy you have to focus on one prime directive. Get up. Your muscles strain as you begin the Herculean task of defying gravity itself, but something in your peripheral vision shatters that concentration. A light. You look up to see a glowing disc-shaped object floating above you, but as soon as it registers in your mind what you are looking at, you watch it zip away into the night sky. You stand up on wobbly legs and you look around with no idea where you are. So you just start running, using the ambiguous but overpowering fear you feel to fuel your escape. But escape from what? You quickly see a town come into view at the bottom of the hill, and miracle of all miracles, you recognize it. You start running faster with the amorphous certainty that familiarity is a good thing. It takes every molecule of strength that you don't have, but you make it to a phone booth and call your family, uttering the only words you have the strength to blurt out. It's me, Travis. They brought me back. This is the moment that, like it or not, Travis Walton started his new life. Not the hopeful, joyous start marked with the birth of a new child, but more like the confusing, hazardous haze that engulfs you when your entire worldview has been yanked from beneath your feet. After about a half an hour of sitting in that phone booth, that lifeline, headlights flood through the glass. Travis's brother Dwayne and brother-in-law Grant, despite severe misgivings of this phone call being yet another prank call, arrive at the gas station to see Travis slumped to the ground. I can't even imagine the feelings that ran through them at that moment. Travis has been gone for 5 days. Everyone thought he was dead, but there he was. A million questions had to have been going through their minds, but they put all of that aside in an instant. It's obvious their little brother needs their help fast. If you're not familiar with the amazing, crazy story of Travis Walton and just where did this guy disappear to for 5 days, I'll get to those details in a bit. But before I do, I would like to take a moment to extend a lifeline of sorts to you out there should you need help as well by mentioning the sponsor of this episode, ZocDoc. Most of us are never going to need the kind of attention that Travis needed as he was sitting on the floor of that phone booth. For the vast majority of us, it's more about the wear and tear of time. As I'm getting older, I know I need to pay more attention to my health. Diabetes runs in my family, and I know there are probably other conditions I don't even know about yet that could become problems if I'm not careful. I also know that my longtime doctor recently left to work for the VA, so when I need to find someone new, I know ZocDoc can help. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and instantly book an appointment. They have over 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty, from mental health to dental, eye care to skincare. You can filter by insurance, location, and see verified patient reviews before you book. Plus, appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours, sometimes even same day. So stop putting off that appointment and go to ZocDoc.com/inbetween, linked in the description, to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. And now that we have your healthcare appointment needs covered, let's get back to the story and see what we can do for poor Travis. But let me rewind a bit, because before Travis is slumped in that phone booth, before his family thought he was dead, we need to go back to November 5th, 1975, to a logging crew heading home after a long day's work in the Turkey Springs area of the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. 7 men are packed into a single truck, bouncing down a dirt road as twilight settles over the pines. Travis Walton, Mike Rogers, the crew boss and a good friend of Travis's, Alan Dallas, not a friend of Travis's, John Goulet, Kenneth Peterson, a young husband and a new dad, Dwayne Smith, and Steve Pierce, the youngest on the crew, who actually lied to Mike Rogers to get the job, telling Mike he was 18 when he really was only 17. Just regular guys doing regular work, until they weren't. They're winding through the forest when someone spots a glow through the trees. At first, Travis thinks it's the sunset, maybe a fire. But as they round a bend and the view opens up, every single one of them sees it at the same time. A disc, hovering about 15 feet off the ground, maybe 100 feet from the road. Glowing. It's humming. Definitely not the sun. Mike slams on the brakes and the truck skids to a stop. The other 6 guys are frozen in their seats, wrestling with the cognitive dissonance of what their eyes are telling them versus what their brains say is possible. But not Travis. Now, I need you to understand something. Travis is all of 22 years old with an insatiable curiosity and very little fear of anything. That is a dangerous combo. This guy is an amateur boxer as a hobby, and once jumped out of the crew truck to chase a bear that had crossed the road in front of them. And on this night, even though his coworkers are screaming at him to get back in the truck, Travis does what Travis always does. He runs toward danger. He gets out of the truck. Now, in all fairness, Travis even admits that he never intends to get too close. He thinks this thing is going to fly away any second, like if you're running straight toward a rabbit. He thinks there's no way it'll stick around long enough to let him get too close. He gets maybe 20 feet away when the noisy humming sound it's making starts to get louder, like maybe it's gearing up to take off, and it starts to wobble. This is when Travis seriously starts to rethink his life choices. He sees the only real cover in a log in front of him, so he dives for it. But that just brings him closer to the craft. He can still hear the guys in the truck yelling for him to come back, and he's thinking that's exactly what he needs to do. But when he stands up to make a run for it, a beam of blue-green light shoots out and hits him square in the chest. His body goes rigid. The impact lifts him off the ground and throws him backward about 10 feet, landing in a heap. That's when panic takes over. Mike floors it, and the truck tears down that mountain road with 6 terrified men inside, convinced that they had just watched their friend die. When they finally stop about a quarter mile away, they're fighting about what to do. Do they go back for Travis? Do they call the police? Some want to help, others are too scared to move. Mike, feeling like a coward for just leaving his friend there, makes a final decision. He tells them that he's going back, and anyone who doesn't want to go back can stay there, and he'll come back and get them. But nobody wants to stay there by themselves, so they all get back in the truck and turn around. As they're nearing that clearing, they see the same disc-shaped object fly away. Okay, good. At least they don't have to worry about it getting them, too. But when they return to that spot, Travis is gone. There's nothing but darkness and pine trees and the crushing weight of knowing they're about to have to explain the unexplainable to somebody. At around 7:30 p.m., they roll into Heber, Arizona, and stop in a parking lot with a payphone. They all get out of the truck, still not knowing what to do. If they tell the truth, everyone's gonna think they're crazy. But once Travis shows up missing, the sheriff's gonna be knocking on their doors anyway. So they make the call. Can you imagine being that deputy? 6 grown men, some of them in tears, all of them talking over each other, trying to explain that their friend just got zapped by a UFO. Deputy Ellison doesn't know what to think. How could he? But these guys are genuinely terrified. They're not screwing around. They're not drunk. Something happened out there. Whatever it was, it has them all completely freaked out. A search begins immediately. Police, volunteers, they scour that forest all night and into the next day. Nothing. No body, no footprints, no Travis. The Arizona Department of Public Safety gets involved. The FBI starts sniffing around. And the press? Oh, the press had a field day. Man abducted by UFO screams from headlines across the country. The search lasts for 4 days with not a single bit of anything ever found. The 6 witnesses are put through the ringer. Polygraph tests, interrogations, skeptics accusing them of murder, of a hoax, of covering up an accident. However, no one can explain how 5 out of the 6 of them pass their polygraph tests. 5 men telling the same story, and none of them are lying to the test. The only one who didn't pass was Alan Dallas. His test was ruled inconclusive because he became uncooperative before the test was over. Remember at the beginning, I said Alan was not a friend of Travis's? Well, because pre-abduction, Alan and Travis, they just didn't really get along. And Alan was terrified that those feelings of ill will would skew his results. He panicked and left before the test was over. Still, Travis is missing. Agonizing days pass. Everyone, including his family, starts to accept the worst. Until that phone call. It's me, Travis. They brought me back. When Dwayne and Grant pull up to that gas station, they find Travis barely able to stand. He's disoriented, dehydrated. He's lost about 10 pounds, but he's alive. And he has a story that is going to make the last 5 days look simple by comparison. Travis says the last thing he remembers before waking up is that beam of light hitting him. Then darkness. When he comes to, he's lying on a table in what he thinks is a hospital. There's a bright light above him. His whole body, especially his head and his chest, aches. He tries to focus his eyes. And that's when he sees them. 3 beings, short, maybe 4.5 feet tall, pale, bald, with those large, dark eyes that have become the stuff of nightmares and alien lore. They're wearing brownish-orange coveralls, and they're standing over him. Travis freaks out. Understandably. He's in pain. He's terrified, and these things are right in his face. He swings his arm to the right at them, knocking one down like it's nothing, as he jumps off the table to his left. He looks around and grabs the first thing he sees that's even close to a weapon, some kind of glass-like tube. He starts swinging it at them. They stumble backwards, and then, without a word, they just leave. Now, Travis is alone. He's panicking. He staggers out of the room into a curved hallway. The little beings went to the right, so Travis goes to the left, keeps walking around the curved hallway, and finds another room, but this one's different. It's got a chair in the center surrounded by controls. And there's a large screen or window showing stars, like some kind of star map. He starts touching the controls, hoping to find some button that opens another door for him to get out. And suddenly, the stars on the screen start moving. He realizes he might be piloting this thing, and he immediately stops. And that's when the door opens. This time, it's not one of those gray beings. It's a human. Or at least something that looks like a human. A man about 6 feet tall with human features, wearing a tight-fitting suit and a clear fishbowl-looking helmet. Travis runs up to him, desperate, asking a million questions. Where am I? Are you from Earth? Can you help me? The man doesn't answer. He just takes Travis by the arm and leads him out of the room, down the hallway, down a ramp, into what appears to be a massive hangar with other disc-shaped craft. They go into another room where 3 more human-looking people are waiting. 2 men and a woman who all look like siblings, all dressed in blue. Travis tries talking to them too, but nobody will say a word. They gently but firmly take him to a table and lay him down. They put something over his face, like an oxygen mask. He looks up at a ceiling glowing with light, and then nothing. The next thing Travis knows, he's waking up on the cold pavement. He looks up to see a different disc than the one that took him shoot straight up and vanish. He stands up, recognizes that he's on the outskirts of Heber, runs to that now famous phone booth, and makes that now famous call. Now, you would think coming back would be the end of the ordeal, at least the physical part, as I'm sure he probably still struggles with the psychological ramifications to this day. But he's physically back. No more searching, no more whispers of murder charges for the other 6 guys, right? But for Travis, it's just the beginning of a different kind of nightmare. The media circus explodes. Everyone wants a piece of him. Believers want him to be their poster boy. Skeptics want to tear him apart. He's subjected to medical exams and psychological evaluations. Some people call him a hero. Others call him a liar. The National Enquirer pays for him to take a polygraph test on November 15th, so just 5 days after his return. Considering that polygraph tests basically measure a person's level of nervousness, and considering that Travis is a walking nervous breakdown at this point, it's not a real surprise to anyone when he fails. Unfortunately, that is just fuel for the fire for the skeptics and debunkers already lining up to take their shots at Travis. Philip Klass, a prominent UFO skeptic, wages a decades-long campaign to discredit Travis and the other witnesses without even interviewing Travis himself. Even legendary UFO investigator Stanton Friedman once commented on an article written by Klass that it contains so much baloney it should be distributed by a delicatessen. Klass claims the whole incident was all a hoax so Mike Rogers could get out of his logging contract because he was behind schedule. Never mind that Mike's crew actually lost money because of the incident. Never mind the polygraph test. Never mind that 6 men have stuck to their story for 50 years. And according to Steve Pierce, the young kid on the crew, Klass actually went so far as to offer Steve $10,000 in 1975 money to recant his story and tell everyone it was a hoax. The case becomes one of the most documented and most debated abduction cases in history. It's investigated by APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization. It's written about in Travis's book, Fire in the Sky. It's turned into a Hollywood movie in 1993, though Travis is quick to point out that Hollywood took some creative liberties, particularly with the medical examination scene that they turned into something out of a horror film. But through it all, Travis has never wavered, never changed his story. He's not trying to make money off of it. In fact, he's turned down numerous offers over the years. He just wants people to know what happened to him. And just so you know, as the publicity for the 1993 movie started ramping up, all 7 men once again took polygraph tests, including Alan Dallas, the guy who walked out of the testing the first time. They were all administered by Cy Gilson, the same guy who gave them the first tests in 1975. Cy was considered the best polygrapher in the state of Arizona in 1975 and only got more distinguished in his career over the years. So the guy knows if you're lying. Results? all of them pass with scores averaging over 99%. According to Edward Gelb, president of the American Polygraph Association, in an interview in 1979, the odds against 6 people successfully deceiving a trained examiner on a single issue are over 1,000,000 to 1. And now they have 7. So here we are, 50 years later. What do we make of the Travis Walton case? 6 witnesses saw him get hit by that beam of light. 6 witnesses passed polygraph tests. A 4-day search for him in the forest turned up nothing. Travis was missing for 5 days. He came back dehydrated and traumatized. Medical exams found no evidence of drugs, and police found no evidence of a hoax. And in all these years, nobody has cracked. Nobody has admitted it was a fake. Nobody has come forward with evidence of a conspiracy. Does that mean it happened exactly as Travis describes? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you this. Something happened in that forest on November 5th, 1975. Something that turned 7 ordinary men's lives upside down. Something that we still can't fully explain. Over the last 50 years, Travis has had a lot of time to think about this entire ordeal from every possible angle. And after reading his book, let me tell you, he has covered a lot of angles. One of the possibilities to answer the big question of why him might lie in that beam of light. Travis now thinks it was all just a big accident, that he got too close, causing some kind of electrical arc that hit him like a monster-sized version of the static electricity shocks you get in the winter, and that they could have just left him there, but they brought him aboard not to experiment on him, but to fix him before dropping him off again. That certainly would account for the searing pain in his chest. Isn't that a nice thought? To think that even beings from somewhere else might have compassion, might understand what it means to hurt someone by accident and try to make it right. Or maybe it was something else entirely. Maybe. We'll never know. What I do know is this. Travis Walton was 22 years old when it happened, so he is 72 years old now. And he has spent half a century living with the weight of 5 days he can barely remember and a story that most people find impossible to believe. He didn't ask for this. He didn't go looking for fame. He was just a young kid trying to make a living with the chainsaw. And then something reached down from the sky and changed everything. Whether you believe him or not, you have to admit that it takes a certain kind of courage to stick to your truth, even when the whole world is calling you a liar. Even when it would be easier to just say it was all a mistake, a misunderstanding, or even fess up to the lie. Travis Walton won't do that. He can't. Because for him, it's not a story. It's not a case file. It's not a headline. It's 5 days of his life that are missing forever. Whatever happened that day stole from him the normal life he had been building and gave him a new future with a burden no one would want. So as we mark the 50th anniversary of the Travis Walton incident, maybe the real question isn't whether we believe him. Maybe it's what would we do if it happened to us? Would we have the courage to tell the truth, knowing most people wouldn't believe it? Would we run toward the unknown like Travis did? Or would we stay safely in the truck? Truth be told, I'm sure my butt would have never left that truck. Frozen in fear would be an understatement for me. But I certainly tip my hat for those who would not stay in the truck. Where would we be today if we didn't have those people who laugh in the face of danger and go on to make the biggest discoveries? If you are feeling courageous and are ready to jump from the truck into more tales of the unknown, click right here. Be careful out there. And I will see you here again on the In-Between.